guys. Here it is. Tom Pelissero, Bills fired Sean McDermott, sources tell the insiders. Now, would he be a top candidate? I'm not going to take the time to dive into the numbers to see how the Bills defense was this year. I think it was kind of bad, Nick. And this is another example, guys. You guys hear me say offensive-minded head coach, defensive-minded head coach. This was a defensive-minded head coach. And what have they constantly had to do? They've constantly had to recycle offensive coordinators through their system, right? So you hire a defensive coordinator as your head coach, and they have made it to the playoffs how many years and got knocked out of the playoffs over and over and over and over and over and over again. It doesn't mean every defensive-minded head coach is not going to be a good coach. It just seems like there's a lower percentage chance of hitting on one of those guys as your head coach, right? So would I want him as DC? I mean, he was good enough as a defensive coordinator, Nick, in Carolina to obviously get a head coaching job. Possibly, right? Possibly. I imagine he's going to be at least in the top 10 of candidates, maybe top 5. He definitely wouldn't be my top choice. You guys know how I kind of feel about this. There's several guys. We got to wait for the coaching carousel to kind of unfold before we can really kind of zero in, you know. Perfect scenario for me would be Brian Flores. He's probably going to get a head coaching job, right? So if you throw that one out the window, same thing applies to Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph, he's going back to Denver if he doesn't get a head coaching job, so he's kind of off the table, right? Same thing with the Houston Texans defensive coordinator. Same thing with the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator. You can't make a lateral move. They don't get a head coaching job. They're going back to their respective. The interesting thing about Brian Flores is he's a free agent, right? So, and I actually did a poll question. Let's end it with this. And again, thank you so much for that breaking news there, Nick. I did a poll question, guys. Remember we talked about Jim Leonard the other day? We talked about former Wisconsin Badger Jim Leonard. Now, be very clear here. His name got brought up when we hired Jeff Hafley. I did not want Jim Leonard as the defensive coordinator when we hired Jeff Hafley. And here's the reason. We hadn't seen enough at the NFL level. Like, you're talking about a guy who's done nothing at the NFL level as a coach. And I know he had some success in college, it sounded like, and he went to, I think, Illinois State and was some kind of, I can't remember what it was, analyst or something or whatever. And then he goes to Denver this year, and he's the secondaries coach and the passing game coordinator. What does that mean? You've got Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator. Sean Payton handpicked Jim Leonard as his secondary coach and passing game coordinator. Their passing defense finished second best in the league. Second best in the league. Patrick Surtain, he won the AP Defensive Player of the Year. Okay. Now they've got good edge rushers, a lot of things that come into play here. But now I'm to the point where, okay, Jim Leonard went to the NFL. The portion of his responsibility in that awesome Denver Bronco defense excelled this year. I'm open to it. That's one of my top choices. I threw a tweet out. Again, he's not my top choice. B-Flow is. And there's a couple other guys I probably like a little bit more, right? So I threw a tweet out about Jim Leonard, and he got loud in the comments. There was a bunch of people. I'm so tired of people talking about Jim Leonard. The only reason you want Jim Leonard is because he's a Wisconsin Badger fan. I'm not a Badger fan. I pull for him because I got a lot of friends that are Badgers fans, obviously doing a Packers podcast. I pull for him, but I'm not a diehard Badgers fan, right? I'm simply looking at, here's a name that keeps surfacing. Okay, he was a great football player at Wisconsin. He was I think a very good football player in the NFL. He goes into coaching in Wisconsin, has some success, was interim head coach, led him to a 3-2 record down the stretch, got him bowl eligible. But I think everybody, all the Badger fans will be happy with that right now, having that kind of little bit of momentum, right? And then he goes to Illinois State, and then he gets a job in the NFL as a passing game coordinator, and he does really well, right? So I'm to the point now where it's like, okay, man, this makes sense. There were several people in there that were raking him over the coals, and it surprised the absolute crap out of me. I'm like, I thought you guys liked Jim Leonard. And those same people, the 2 or 3 that commented, were, no, we don't. He turned us down last time and this and that. Now, there was a rumor that Jim Leonard turned the job down because Mike Pettin told him to. Mike Pettin and Jim Leonard have a close relationship, right? I have not found anyone that can find me any proof that that's true, okay? I don't want to say who mentioned it because it makes it sound like I'm accusing them of lying. That's not the case. But the question is, why did Jim Leonard turn it down? When it came back, that he wanted to get the job at Wisconsin. That's what he wanted to have. Okay. So there's some mixed reviews, mixed facts, if you will. There's not been anything that's substantial that says he turned down the Packers defensive coordinator job because Mike Pettin told him, don't go coach for LaFleur. So Ed Werder put a tweet out that said, hey, Jim Leonhard might be a possible candidate in Green Bay. That was LaFleur's top choice last time. Looks like Matt LaFleur had two pretty damn good choices in Jeff Hafley, who I think was a success overall. And then Jim Leonhard goes on. That was actually his top choice. He goes on and he, has success there in Denver, right? Later on in his career. So it said he wanted to return to college. Now, Matt picked Joe Barry, and I know that seems to be a big swing and a miss. You guys know my opinion on that, and it's not a popular one. I'm sorry, but if Joe Barry had Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams and Edgerrin Cooper on his defense, that would be a whole different story with Joe Barry. There's no one who's going to convince me otherwise, right? Again, it's easy to say Jeff Hafley did a great job and Joe Barry sucks at his job when Joe Barry had Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens at safety and did not have Edgerrin Cooper at stack backer either, right? Javon Bullard took a step forward this year, right? So with all that being said, who was our nickel back at that time? I think it was Keyshawn, right? Keyshawn was our slot corner at that time. So there's just more to the equation than others. But I put a poll question up, right? And sure enough, same as the Fire Matt LaFleur crowd that got really loud. I'm going, dang, boy, the Packer fan base wants him gone. We did a poll question, and it was anywhere from 65 to 85% of the fans wanted LaFleur back. So it was just an extremely, extremely, extremely loud minority. Same thing with this Jim Leonhard thing. Jim Leonhard, 76.2% off 685 votes, says they would prefer Jim Leonhard over DeMarcus Covington. Okay. And that I put that up there because DeMarcus Covington seems to be the Packer fan favorite from promotion within. If you go outside of the building, maybe Jim Leonhard wouldn't be leading, but I'm like, man, they really hate Leonhard. Let's see if they'd rather have Leonhard or Covington. 76% of the fan base said they would prefer to hire Jim Leonhard than promote DeMarcus Covington to DC if indeed or when our boy Jeff Hafley actually goes and gets the head coaching job in Miami, which should come down the pike any day now with these other candidates becoming available. They'll get those second interviews in-person interviews in with some of these coordinators that are obviously now eliminated from the playoffs. And we're going to keep our finger on the pulse there. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about McDermott? Okay. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. You're watching this video back later. Would you rather have McDermott, Leonhard, okay, or would you rather have Covington as your next defensive coordinator? This would be a fun little question. I may ask that in a poll question on X as well. But let us know in the comments what you think about that. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. We're going to go ahead and wrap up there, guys. Appreciate everybody jumping in here. If you would, the best way to support what we do here at PTA, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. A ton of content going out over there. Going to have even more draft coverage going out. You get access to our draft board where you can sort each individual column, kind of see how we break down the draft every year. You get access to that. $3 get you access to everything over there. It's the best way to support what we do. Now, if you feel more comfortable supporting here on YouTube, want to be a member, that's totally cool too. But we greatly appreciate everybody jumping in here and talking Packers and specifically Bears collapse today. So we'll probably be live later today if we have any kind of news break. So keep your eye on that. And we will go live as soon as something does come down the pike. If Hafley gets a job or the Packers have another interview for DC, any of that information, we'll make sure we get you guys that in real time. That's why it's important to make sure you hit like, help boost the algorithm, make sure you're subbed to the channel, and you can click that bell icon. So whenever we do go live with breaking news, you'll get buzzed right to your phone. Oh, Clayton went live with PTA. Oh, crap, we hired a defensive coordinator. That'll help if you got that stuff clicked. So greatly, greatly appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you in a couple hours. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack, go.
Here we go.
We're out.
Bye, guys.